What's going on, guys? This is Chandler Smith, and I am so pumped about this video because we are just about to go inside to the 15 Plex that we're inspecting today. So in this video, you're gonna get to meet my inspector. We're gonna talk about how I found him and how you can find a good inspector, and he's gonna go through a lot of the big things that he looks for as an inspector to make sure that a building is good to go. So with all of that being said, let's jump into it. All right, guys, just so you know, I'm still kind of keeping this complex on the DL, but I wanted to give you everything that I could in the process. So we're gonna walk in here, but we're not gonna show the exterior of the buildings yet. Let's jump in, and this is actually the first unit that we're inspecting. And so here we have Dan. How are you?
I'm good, Chandler.
Good, doing really good. You ready for us to pick on you for a little bit?
I am. Go ahead.
Very cool. Well, first off, so I came in contact with you, it's been probably 15 years ago.
Probably.
Would you say that's about right?
Yeah.
And the reason I use Dan for all my inspections isn't because I did a huge background check on him. It was just because he was a good family friend and I knew I could count on him. But when it comes to picking an inspector, what would you say are some of the big things people should look for before they go with someone?
Experience is number one.
Okay.
How many inspections has an individual done? What's their background? Do they have a construction background? So those are the two big hitters. And then you want to look at their credentials. Do they have ASHI standards in their inspection protocol? And then do they carry errors and omissions insurance? Okay. A good professional inspector will carry errors and omissions insurance. A lot of the part-time inspectors won't. I carry $1 million per incident errors and omissions insurance, which is basically the top of the line in insurance. You want the inspector to carry errors and omissions insurance because that it protects the parties involved. So those are the big keys: experience and insurance.
Very cool. Okay. So experience, insurance, and doing your due diligence to make sure that they've done lots of inspections and they've got all those things in place.
Get some references. And just like in life, no one's perfect, but overall, what's their track record? Okay? So, and personally, I've done over 10,000 inspections.
Holy cow, 10,000.
Right. So, you know, that I haven't seen it all, but I've seen a lot.
Yeah.
So those are the things you'd look for.
Very cool. Cool. Well, I think that's some great advice for finding an inspector. With that being said, this is a 2-bedroom unit.
Right.
And if it's okay, I'm probably just going to follow and ask questions on some of the bigger things that you look for. We're not going to get to cover all of it, but at least we can get an idea of some of the things that an inspector looks for.
Right. When you look at a structure, you're looking at the big hitters. You first start with safety. Safety, structural, mechanical, electrical. Okay, the nits and picks you want to identify and maybe let your client know, but those may not be in the report. But any major issue you want to identify, put it in the report. That way your client is fully informed on the purchase. Okay, when you do the outside, you know, you're going to look at the roof. You're going to look at the exterior envelope of the property. You're also going to look at the landscape. Does it have slope away from the foundation? Is the sprinkler system working properly? You look for dry spots or swamps, okay? You look at the windows. You look for moisture between the panes. You look for trim. Then you move into the envelope. Now you're going to start looking for signs of leaking, okay? Spongy floors, indications of past moisture at lights or fans, anywhere that might be a penetration through the roof. Then you're going to move into the heating system. You're going to test the heating system. In this particular home, we've got forced air electric, and then we've got ceiling cable upstairs, and we also have some heated tile in the kitchen. So you look at the heating system. That's part of the mechanical. Then you move to the plumbing. You're going to look at the water heater. You're going to look at the plumbing distribution. You're going to look at the faucets and such. So you take the home apart, or you look at the home by its components. Each system has various components in the system, and you're looking at those components as you dissect that system.
Very cool.
Okay.
I love that. Well, with that, should we kind of walk through and hit on some of them? All right, so we're into the kitchen here.
Right. As we start into the kitchen, you're going to look at the appliances. You're going to look underneath the kitchen sink to see if there's any past moisture indications there. Okay. And then if there's past moisture indications, you might want to get out your moisture meter and check to see if it's current or past. Okay. Get a moisture level indication, and you want to put that in the report. You test the appliances the best you can. A lot of times you can't get a full cycle on a dishwasher during the inspection, okay? We'll look for water distribution. This particular fridge doesn't have any water distribution. It tells me it probably doesn't have water supply in the back. In the garage, we'll test the door. We'll look at the door seal. You can see on this one, weather seal is gone at the bottom of the door panel, so we're not going to get a good seal. You make note of that. Test the door, make sure it rises fully above the header, make sure it closes and seals. Look at the interior of the garage. Again, for any moisture intrusion, test the receptacles, check and see if you've got a ground fault circuit interrupter. If you don't, then you have to take into consideration the age of the property. This particular property is old or new enough that it has a GFCI. You look at the electrical panel, you look at the distribution of the electricity. If you have indications that they may have done some modifications of the panel, pull the panel face off and you look at the wiring, okay? This particular panel has extra slots in it. It doesn't look like they've done anything quirky, so I'm not going to worry about that.
Very cool. And with this one, I know they've got the heated floor. This, I think, is the only unit with a heated floor. Yes. Does that make you nervous when you're looking at electrical?
No. They're a nice feature. Sometimes they don't work right. If the wiring between the thermostat and the cable in the floor happens to short out, you're done. Okay? Nice feature in a home. It's always nice to have the heat at your feet. But this particular home, we've got the forced air. These are easy to check because they come right on, okay? Whereas, let's go upstairs for a minute. Up here, we have ceiling cable heat. Ceiling cable is a little different. The heating source is actually embedded in the ceiling, okay? It takes a while for this ceiling cable heat to come up to temperature, so I have to turn it up, and then I have to go off and do some other things and come back and check this, okay? So that's what I'm doing now, is I'm letting it heat up. As far as the bathrooms go, when you come into a bathroom, you want to check around the base of the toilet. Make sure you don't have any spongy. That tells you that your subfloor is gone. Check the water flow. Check for any leaks at the tub. Check for any leaks below the sink, in the vanity. You just test all the plumbing as you come through.
Definitely. And I've seen you over the years always turn it on and check for temperature.
Yes.
What are you usually looking for when you do that?
Just to make sure you've got hot water.
Yeah.
And it's not scalding. I can usually test with my hand the temperature. You don't want it above 120 degrees, okay? So if it's this is called a mixing valve, okay? So this one you just swing over and you turn it up. If you've got individual valves, you turn the cold on, you turn the hot on, then you turn the cold off, and then you walk away for a minute and let that hot heat up, okay? So we're just testing for proper water flow. You check the fan, make sure that fan works, okay? Once you move out of areas with water or larger electrical circuits like your 220 circuits, once you move into the bedrooms, it's a little more benign. You don't have as many problems, let's say. So if we move into the bedroom, you come around and you test the receptacles and you look for grounding.
Now, this has been one of my questions. Almost every property I've bought doesn't have the grounding.
Right.
And so I would always ask you, does that mean I'm in trouble? Should I not buy the property?
Not necessarily. A lot of properties have three-prong receptacles, which are these here, in a non-grounded circuit. That's not a standard practice in the electrical industry. It's a standard practice for homeowners to do that, okay? Standard practice, if you've got non-grounded circuits with three-prong receptacles, is to put a ground fault circuit interrupter, a GFCI, at the head of that circuit, at the first receptacle in that circuit. That will protect the receptacles downstream. Very seldom do I ever see that happen, but that's the proper thing to do. So as we come into bedrooms, you might check to see if the closet doors are intact, and then as I leave a bedroom, I'll usually close the door and open it back up, just to make sure we've got proper operation. Not a big deal, but still I check for that. What you're going to do is you're going to look for cracking, settling cracks, things like that. Indications of past moisture. Check windows. This particular window has fog, okay? See the fog? That indicates moisture between the window panes. So the seal at that outside double pane unit has broken, okay? So I'll make note of that. It is a vision issue. It's not a thermal issue. It's not like hot or cold is going to get in any more with that condition than it is without it. And then I know you're always kind of feeling your feet. What are you looking for when we're walking around? Spongy.
Just anything spongy.
Spongy, yeah.
Unevenness doesn't necessarily scare you too bad. Still something to check on, but spongy is the biggest concern.
I get into older homes, and a lot of times the floors are uneven, and that's an old home characteristic. If they're just uneven and solid, then I look underneath, if I can, to see what's going on. A lot of times I'll see some old, footings with posts with wood shims, okay? And that a lot of times will lead to uneven floors, okay? Again, it's an old home characteristic, but if I feel spongy, if it flexes on me, that can be a little bit more serious, let's say. And I'll look a little bit further. Once I get done with a property, a lot of times I'll go back through and do my layman's walkthrough. That's one where I just kind of stand and study. I'll just stand and look around. Because as I'm going through the inspection process, a lot of times I'm focused on the items I need to gather information on, and I'll miss something, okay? So I stand and study. I'll look at ceilings, I'll look at walls. That's the final thing I do, and then I'm done.
I know for me, this is going to be, if we go through with it, this will be my 114th unit that I own now.
Right.
And I still call you every time and pay an inspector. And I know I have my reasons, but for you, for people, especially that are starting, or people that say, oh, my dad has done renovations or this, that, and other thing, why is an inspector still important even when you do have some experience?
I'm going to turn that question around for a minute, okay? Has there been instances where through my report, you've been able to identify things that have cost a lot more than what you've paid for the inspection, and you've had the seller do those? Have you had that happen?
100%. And
Right.
I think not only have I found things I would have missed even after being in a lot of properties, you've done this for years and years and years. So I find something that I'm like, what does this even mean? What is this? I've never seen this before. And
Right.
And on top of that, I have the, backing when I go back and say, hey, these are the issues, and this is the inspector's report saying these are actual issues. This isn't
Right.
something I've found, and that gives a lot more validity to what I'm going when I'm renegotiating or when I'm trying to get things fixed that really are a problem.
Precisely. So you found value or utility in the inspection.
100%.
100%. That's the bottom line. You do it because you need to know the condition of the property and get the best price for the property, okay? And you use the inspection to identify things that the seller needs to know to complete the transaction, because if you decide not to go through with it, the seller needs to know these things so they can get it fixed for the next buyer. It's going to be fixed a lot of times, regardless whether you have it fixed or not.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, 99% of the inspections you do, there's absolutely nothing wrong, right?
No. That is an anomaly.
Yeah.
Honestly, I can do a brand new home, and I do a lot of walkthroughs on brand new homes. Did one yesterday, and the list was about 14 items long on a brand new home. So there are issues. The severity is subjective, and what I mean there is you determine the severity of the item. Okay, I don't. I'm just going to say this is the way it is. You can ask me, and I'll tell you my perspective or my opinion, but you're the one that has to determine that bottom line.
And Dan, the reason that I use that as kind of a joke is in every property you're going to find something. And I think one thing that people need to understand, especially when buying rental properties and buying properties that were built in the 60s, 70s, you're going to find issues. And another thing that's nice about an inspector is they can help you also kind of determine that severity. For you, it's been awesome because now I have a list and I have kind of that check through where I can either go to someone who's going to do that work and say, what is this going to cost? Or and maybe this is particular to you, but I've said, Dan, how serious is this?
Right.
How long till I need to fix it? What's it going to cost? And obviously that's not even completely your job, but it's awesome to have someone that has another pair of eyes that can give you another opinion and help you decide what's important, what's not, what you do need to get money to make the deal work. Because some things I might say, oh, that's not that severe, and you're going to find it and say, hey, like 2 or 3 years from now, this is going to be a big expense for you, so you need to make sure you're on it.
Definitely. Yeah, you want to be fully informed at the time of purchase, okay? And I feel, I might be biased here, but I feel that there's good utility in having an inspection performed. A lot of people decide to have their father-in-law or their brother, somebody in the construction industry. That's fine, but it's a process. It's a process-oriented evaluation. If you don't have a process, like I say, you stand back at the end and stand and study. If you don't have a process, you may miss something. So, find out how many inspections a person has done, whether they carry errors and omissions insurance, get some references, and then move forward.
All right, guys, I always hesitate to do this, but Dan is the best of the best. And the reason I hesitate sharing people I use is because I don't want them to get so busy they don't use me anymore. But Dan is incredible at doing tons of inspections. He does an awesome job. And if you are in the Idaho Falls area, he's the man to go to. So it's Dan James, and Pillar to Post.
Correct.
Is the company name.
Right.
And so if you are doing inspections in this area, there's nobody better around. And thank you so much for giving us kind of a run through. I think so many people want to know why an inspection is important and what happens. And holy cow, I can't tell you how many times, and you could say the same thing about going through my properties and finding things that, yes, I would have missed, and then advising me on how to handle them or who I should call in to make sure that I'm a good place, or figuring out pricing, whatever else. Because you know everybody with all of this stuff, and you've been through it thousands of times, and helps a lot to have you go through it before I'm going to spend money on it.
I appreciate your confidence. And one thing I'm going to clarify is right now, because of the current environment, I mask up. I wear N95 masks. We are in a vacant apartment, and that's why Chandler isn't masked up, because we're in a vacant apartment. As we move through these apartments, we're going to mask up because they're occupied. Just a heads up.
Yep, and I've got to go get my mask on, but YouTube, you got to have your face showing, right?
Exactly, yep.
So guys, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you push the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the future videos. Thanks so much, Dan.
You're welcome. Thank you.